Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast, where we interview experts in driver recruiting. We provide industry insights, marketing trends, and motivation to help you level up your recruiting game. Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Craddock, and super excited to have Caleb G on today. And we actually met a few weeks ago, just chatting through the recruiting landscape. And then I hit him up and I was like, hey, man, would you like to come on the podcast? And so super excited to have Caleb here. Who is Caleb? So Caleb is the Senior Driver Hiring Manager at Nussbaum. So welcome to the show today, Caleb.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And then Caleb also, just fun fact, he's a father of 7, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more. Homeschooling family, strong faith background, and our focus today is on growth mindset and then practical insights around recruiting. So those are kind of the 2 pillars we're going to hit today. We're going to spend the first half of the conversation talking about growth mindset, different things that are kind of unique to Caleb and the way he leads at work and in his family. And then kind of the last half, we want you to stick around for that. We're going to go through just different industry insights, like what's different right now with regional, local, OTR, things like that. So make sure you hang around to the end of the show. So starting out, Caleb, like I think in the intro, everybody kind of gravitated towards like, what, 7 kids? So you've got 7 kids, and then, lead at work as well. How has your patience leveled up over time or been tested as you've added more kids and more responsibility over the years?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's definitely something that has improved just especially at home. And it's one of those things, I think you and I talked about it before, that anything that's important, you can't decide like the next day, hey, great, tomorrow I'm going to be patient for forever till the end of time. And so I think it's something where I'm way more patient than I was 5 years ago and certainly 10 years ago. And a lot of it is just with patience, it's priorities. Oftentimes when we're short with someone or with some event, it's because maybe the priorities are not in the right order. They say don't cry over a glass of spilled milk. Well, what if it's the 12th glass of spilled milk in the day, right? Like, is it okay to cry then? But still remembering that, hey, there's a little human on the other side of that glass of spilled milk that needs your patience and needs your love. And yeah, trying to just breathe through that and clean it up or whatever it is. And remember keeping the main thing the main thing.
Yeah. So we just added our third, that's 3 months old now. So no, not quite 7, but every time I feel like God's just given me like a new level of like patience that I didn't have before. It's like new level unlocked when new child arrives. And so what I've had, because Lauren has been, feeding the new baby most of the time. And so I've had the 2 younger ones like during the night, if anything happens. And so our 2-year-old has been waking up in the middle of the night and usually about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, just crying like water, food, whatever. Like he'll walk around the house and be like, eat. I mean, the other night he like walked in at like 2 a.m. and like poked me. It was like, eat. And so I go get him back in bed, and I've had a good mentality because I've had some mentors of mine say like, hey, like enjoy these moments. Like they're, super short that they're this age and you're going to blink and it's going to be gone. And so usually the first time he comes in there and says something like, or wakes up and I hear him on the baby monitor, like I'm like, oh, this is such a gift. I get to, see him in the middle of the night and he's so cute and I get to put the blanket back on him and he's like, Dad, blanket, water, wah. And then even the second time, a lot of times I'll have that mentality, but man, like sometimes like by the 3rd time or 4th time and I'm like so exhausted. I'm like, dude, no, you can't eat at 3 a.m. And there are 2 times recently I conceded and I was like, yes, you can have a granola bar at 4 o'clock, but this is the 6th time you've gotten up. And I'm like, I may be creating a habit where he's going to eat in the middle of the night, but
I need you to sleep.
Yeah. And so, it's a journey and for me as well. So one of the things we talked about is 3 of your kids are adopted. And so I'm just a little curious, and we haven't even talked about this in our previous conversations too. So this will be the first time live on the call, but what yeah, what sparked that decision to adopt, and how has that shaped the way you lead both at home and in the workplace?
Yeah. No, and it's a great question. So my wife and I had considered adopting before we even had any kids. I mean, it had been a discussion. And after our first, we actually had a stillborn, very,
Mm.
very late term stillborn. And that kind of kick-started the conversation again for whatever reason. Just, hey, we thought this is something we should do. And yeah, so we jumped in to the foster care system, and all three of our kids have been adopted through foster care, and two are biological siblings. The other one is not related to the other two, and so very different cases. But yeah, that has been a shaping journey in and of itself. Yeah, and in a good way too, and also definitely refining us and as far as the patience goes.
Well, yeah, there was a lot there. Like, so first of all, just I'm sorry, like for you and your wife. I can't imagine having to go through that. Like, we've had some friends and like really close friends and have gone through that. But having not gone through that personally, I can't fully understand. But yeah, I'm just sorry. I know that had to be hard.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's something that was 10 years ago, actually almost to the day. And yeah, it's something still affects things today, and our kids know about it. And but yeah, like you said, it's one of those things. We had some friends, similar situations, and it's like, okay, that's sad. That's terrible. That's not going to happen to us though, right? And then it did. And yeah, that's definitely been just a journey in our marriage as well, because I think women and men process those things drastically different, and understandably so, right? Here you have a baby that was literally grew inside your wife's body and then dies. So yeah, working through that over the years, and obviously in the moment when it happens, and once you realize, oh, this is happening. But there's been a lot of fruit from it. And honestly, when it gets brought up, right, like it's not something you run around and tell everybody. But when it does happen, it's shocking to know how many other people have had similar experiences. And it's something in our culture. Yeah, it just doesn't really get talked about, or it just kind of, okay, move on. And yeah, it hurts, but yeah, it's an interesting conversation just around that whole topic.
Hmm. Well, I hope what comes out of this show is that somebody's listening that is kind of going through something similar, or has, and just needs to talk about it, and maybe reaches out to you.
Yeah.
And so maybe you're able to help, you and or your wife are able to help somebody else, because that's in my experience too, with the different hard things Lauren and I've been through, is like our hardest times end up being like the ways that we can best impact other people, because when you actually speak it and share it, like you're saying, my experience, like in completely different categories, I've had people coming to me and be like, hey, like I've been through that too. And just because, again, in our culture, I think people hold things so close to the vest. But once you kind of put it out there and you're able to help people, that's the cool part that can come from it. So how else is that? I'm just curious, like shaped like that hard moment 10 years ago. So that actually that was the catalyst for getting into doing foster care stuff.
Yeah, I would say so.
And so you've been able to impact, how many kids have you fostered?
So we are rare, and you'll find anybody that's done foster care, I think it's a different journey for everybody. I mean, we know people that have fostered 28 kids and adopted none. We have fostered 3 and adopted 3. I guess you could say 4 for a very brief couple weeks. We did have our 2 oldest adopted. We had their biological brother for a short period of time, but yeah, ours was to make a long story short, the first case with the 2 oldest, they actually have 4 older siblings, have multiple others now. And so yeah, that was a 3-year process between foster and adoption, and kind of walking away from that case. And then our son, our youngest adopted, that was night and day difference. Very unfortunate circumstances, but mom and dad both kind of signed their rights away, and okay, hey, you can adopt him if you want. So yeah, it's been good though, just from our family's standpoint of, right, like when people ask, we tell them, yeah, this many adopted, this many biological, but having a different conversation now that they're getting older, because we don't want. I was talking to somebody the other day. We failed if they grow up and have felt any different than if they were just one of our biological children. So they know, right? Like, oh, you had a different tummy mommy and tummy daddy, whatever we call them. But they should feel just as loved as any of our biological children. And our biological children know, like, no, these are your siblings. We're their parents. Yeah. So it's just been good for everybody, including us.
And so you have just a whole crew at your house, right? 7 kids and your wife. So how do you? I would imagine the kids have to help with different things because your wife and you can't do it all. So like how have you built like a mindset of serving just into your family that's age appropriate?
Yeah. Yeah. My wife and I were literally talking about this about 30 minutes ago. And because, right, some days look much better than others. And it's also, I don't know that we always want to admit it, but we've grown just as much as hopefully they have as far as the aspect of serving. But yeah, human beings are very selfish, right? We want what we want. We want it now. And so with your children, how do you set that first as an adult? Hey, I'm going to serve you, right? And that really, that's the entire concept of kids is here you have these beings that can't support themselves very early on. They can't feed themselves. They can't wipe they can't change their own diaper. By nature, you have to serve them. And I think that's the way God intended it because it helps us grow
Hmm.
too. But then with the kids, we had some friends that they have some older kids that they kind of gave us some advice and mentored us a little bit on, yeah, just that team mentality of, hey, it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us. And now what role do you play in that? And ultimately when they grow up and they start their own families or out in the world, that's this, no matter what team you're a part of, that's got to be the mentality. And I probably couldn't have told you that 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? Like maybe I could have said it and not really understood it. But I think that's the piece as they've gotten older where I can actually see it play out now on how important this is, even just in my own life, right? You put that in the workplace, you put that in any other circumstance you're in, getting over yourself and finding out, okay, what role can I play in serving other people or helping other people? And it's interesting too, because you watch your kids. You had mentioned at the beginning here that we're both believers. There's things your kids do that just make you absolutely shake your head and you're like, what were they thinking? But you get this picture of, man, like I did that last week. Like, what was God thinking? Like, he's probably looking at me thinking the same thing. What were you thinking? And so, yeah, some days it's much better than others. I come home yesterday. We actually live on a kind of a hobby farm. So there's chores to do and chickens and
Oh,
all
so
that.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I come home yesterday and they all were doing different things. And from what it sounded like, the whole day went really well. Other days I come home though, yeah, it's World War II, and you're like, what happened? So it's always coming back to the let's readjust and figure out how to serve and do it as a team.
That's awesome.
And
The
oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just was going to say too, a lot of that is right. Like I think you had mentioned at the beginning that we homeschool. My wife is like a superwoman, right? She's at home during the day while I'm gone. These 7 kids, and so a lot of this is attributed to her, right? Like I can set the tone when I'm home, or hey, yes, we're on the same page on the direction we're headed, but she has to handle the nuts and bolts of that during the day as well. And so, yeah, she does a tremendous job of not losing her mind and also trying to set the tone for them because right, you can't parent with the do what I say but not what I do mentality. It's got to be
Hmm.
by example. So definitely.
The I have so many more questions I want to dive into on the growth mindset piece, but we're already out of time on that. So we're going to move into industry insights. And so specifically, what makes a great team culture? And this was one of the questions I was most excited to ask, just knowing Nussbaum and the reputation you guys have as a company for good culture, just amongst drivers and just people in the industry. And so you've worked at a carrier known for that culture and work there now. So from your perspective, what separates the fleets that drivers stay with and employees stay with from the ones that the cultures that they leave?
Yeah, yeah, and I think this perfectly ties into what we were just talking about. So yeah, Nussbaum's employee owned. They weren't before 2018, I think is when it switched. The culture was still great then, but then kind of enhanced, even more when we switched to employee owned. And it comes back to exactly what you just talked about, or what we just talked about, is coming into the company, and we specifically look for this when we're hiring, is coming into the company on, okay, how can I um, serve and be a part of the team versus, hey, what can I get from this? And so you really have to walk that out, especially on the hiring side when you're talking to somebody, right? Like famous first question for every driver, what's your CPM? One, why do you care, right? Like if I run you 200 miles a week, who cares if I could pay you $2 a mile? Still not making any money. But two, okay, let's unpack that. And why are you not getting paid where you're at now? What do you bring to the table? So versus the other side of that, we literally had a guy one time say he was the golden egg that the golden goose laid, and we needed him, right? And it's like that, like if that's the mentality you're coming in here with, that's not going to go well for him or for the entire team. And so obviously there's financial, incentives for being employee owned. Hey, all your actions during the day and everybody else that you work with is going to increase the share price and help you financially as well. But it's also knowing that, okay, if I need help or someone else needs help, there's 5 or 6 other people that are willing to jump in and help me. And honestly, personally, this is something that, like, I hate to admit this, but honestly, just in the last couple of years has been something that has really resonated with me. Not just resonated, but starting to actually see it. You live that for long enough, you can start to see, okay, this is why that's important versus if everybody comes in and it's all about them, whether it's an executive, whether it's a driver, whether it's a recruiter, whether it's a driver manager, it's going to be chaos. And I think you see that across the industry, right? You see tons of job hopping, you see turnover super high. It's madness when you don't take that approach to it.
So yeah, I like the point around just servant leadership. I early in my career, I focused on like I had a level of that, but there was also just a level of like I just want us to crush the numbers, and we did really well, like with the teams that I led early in my career, and but I missed some things along the way of just focusing on people and listening well and serving. Like it's almost like I thought I was serving, but I wasn't really serving as much as I think the distinction was, as I'm wrestling through it right now, is I was focused more on the numbers and performance and the perception of outsiders on my career and trajectory and then like trajectory than the people. Like, so it's not, I don't think it's a black and white thing. Cause I did, build a culture that, like, and helped people get where they wanted to go and had, really high employee retention and things like that. But yeah, but there's a level of it now that, like, when I look back on it, like I didn't completely put others first. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nuanced.
Yeah. No, I think it is. And I think it's something that if anybody says they always have, they're lying. But
Mhm.
you can tell too, it's like there's also a difference in right? What did Jesus call the Pharisees? You whitewash tombs. You can have this. It's good, right? It's good to be goal oriented, but hey, how do we all do this together versus I'm going to run off on my own and do this or whip everybody else to make this happen. And then I can put on this facade of, oh, I say the right things and do the right things. And anybody can do that. And I think you see that a lot in our culture. But right inside of the cup versus washing the outside, where does the authenticity come from? And I think you can determine the authenticity when times get bad. If things are going great, well, yeah, okay, it's great for everybody to pretend to be nice or whatever, or be a servant, but you can really tell if it's authentic in the times when things aren't going well. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking for myself here, yeah, just at home and at work and everywhere, yeah, when those tough times come, you really find out what's on the inside of the cup.
Now let's take a minute to thank today's sponsor. Do you hire truck drivers in hard to fill areas, or do you need help creating efficiency in your recruiting department? You're not alone. With 50 plus years experience, Trucking Click specializes in data-driven strategies, industry-leading customer experience, and custom solutions that'll get you to your goal. Trucking Clicks is your go-to place for high-quality, direct leads at scale. Visit truckingclicks.com or call 512-982-0816 today. So thinking back to one of the things you said earlier, I'm going back into the personal development side of the growth mindset. But one of the questions you said earlier, or one of the things you stated, was something around like once you have a ton of kids, you realize the way God looks at you as the father. And so for me specifically, that that contrast has been huge. Just like that, I don't care when my kids do something wrong, because I think through a lot of my faith journey, I've been so focused on doing the right things and like getting an A in my Christianity, right? Like in terms of like almost like from a Pharisaical perspective, like but just wanting to measure up. But then seeing the picture so clearly with my kids when they fall short, how much I have complete grace, and then realizing like that. Because it's like, even though I know that it's only through grace that I'm saved, like through faith, I don't think I really saw the picture of that and was still trying to earn it until I had kids. And then again, it's still a work in progress, but just, that picture is so clear, and just from God being like our Heavenly Father. So anyway, as you mentioned the faith thing, and it just took me back there to earlier in the conversation with kids painting such a good picture of that. And it's just been constructive in my journey, like just taking things almost less seriously. Like I don't have to be perfect today, where so much of my life is type A, hard charging. I'm like, I want to do business perfectly. I want to do family perfectly. I want to do this podcast perfectly. But just being like, no, just show up and there's grace. So I think that's evident throughout everything I do. Um, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think the family unit is a great picture of many, many, many biblical truths. And I think there's a reason that family picture is being destroyed just in our culture. And I was actually talking to a gentleman this morning where, just again, back to that like selfish mentality, and tying that in with some of the things you're talking about, is that you have pride, right? You've got self-deprecating, and both of those things are selfish. Like if you're being
Mm-hmm.
prideful and boastful, well, it's about you. If you're being, oh, woe is me, or I'm terrible and all these other things, it's about you. Whereas if you make it about God, well, then the victories are all his. And when you fall short, it's still all his too. And that, right? Like that's not an excuse to just do whatever you want. But no, if you're living for him and it's about him, then there's somewhere in the middle there of those two extremes where it's not about you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Couldn't agree more. It's good. The and so one of the things, diving back into industry insights, that I wanted to make sure we touch on just as our time's short is just one of the things you had noticed. And so this is on trainees and local market pressures. And so, or new hires and local market pressures. So we're seeing pay and local and regional driving catch up with OTR. That's some of what we talked about in our pre-call. And that's just kind of changed the recruiting landscape recently. And home time's a bigger lever than ever. How have those changes impacted your recruiting approach?
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely something I would say we've seen where, especially right now, the last year and a half, just economically, it's not been great on the trucking side. And so, yeah, you've got these, right? Gravel still needs to be hauled. Things locally still need to, concrete trucks still have to move, everything else. So you're seeing this either, pay staying the same or going up in some of these things where, home times daily are much better than being over the road as compared to, yeah, come drive over the road and maybe a company's cutting rates because of, economic pressure or whatever else. And yeah, that's a challenge because, right, I think we talked about before a little bit with, I think some of the days are gone of, yeah, I have kids and it's my job to provide for them. And okay, they grow up and I put clothes on their back and food in their bellies and we're good to go. No, now you have a lot of drivers where it's, yeah, I want to do those things and support my family, but I also want to see them. So yeah, that's been a challenge for us. We're primarily over the road. We do have a number of dedicated lanes. And quite honestly, that's the number one reason somebody leaves Nussbaum. We get a lot of, hey, I love the company, wish I could stay, but I had this local opportunity that popped up. And sometimes those work out and great, if they do. Other times they don't, and the guy might come back. So yeah, it's just, again, having those conversations with guys beforehand or gals on what are you really after, like when you come here. Because, right, the big ticket things are pay, home time, goodness, just culture in general, right? Are you going to be nice to me or not? And yeah, sometimes you might have somebody, right? Hey, do you have a home daily? No, we don't. I have over the road for you. Okay, well, what do you pay? And it's like at that point, the conversation's typically over because if I know you're not going to be happy with what we have for home time, well, a year from now, you're still not going to be happy with that. And so even if you're making tons of money, why would I put you in a position where I know you're not going to be happy versus trying to match it up with somebody that's, oh yeah, I want to see the country. This is actually what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. That actually goes directly into our next question is, so one of our core values, like at Craddock Holdings, Trucking Clicks, our truckers, is radical honesty, and that's one of the things we talked about in our pre-call. Is just so the question is, are carriers getting more honest? And so you've said like there's often a gap between what recruiters promise and what drivers actually experience, like as an industry. And so, how do you close that gap and build trust without over promising?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I do. I think honesty is getting better industry wide. I think the issue is still omission, right? Where if a driver doesn't ask, then you don't say anything. And part of that's a two-pronged problem is you have the driver not knowing what they should ask and asking the right questions. But then you have a company that's going, here's something that's not great. I know it's not great, and I know other people didn't like it, but they didn't ask, so I'm not going to tell them. That's a waste of everybody's time, the company's time, the driver's time, everything. And so here, I don't think we've never phrased it as radical honesty, but yeah, that's a perfect way to phrase it. Is we have a list of dozens of items that whether a driver asks about it or not, you're going to sit and listen to us go through this list so you know every little detail about working here. That's everything from equipment to how the bonus works to what size dog you can bring to health insurance to how many miles you're going to get a week, how those miles are paid, everything. That way there is no, and then multiple times during that conversation where things are sent to them in writing. So, okay, you've got it in writing. We've literally now gone through it on the phone together. You can ask any question you want, and we're going to get an answer for you because we want to know that it's a good fit for you and it's a good fit for us versus surprise, you got here and for 2 weeks, 2 weeks in, you realize, oh, this is nothing what I was told. And even in still doing that, I would say the average conversation with a driver before hiring them is an hour. And that's after you've done all the, basic questions for just getting an app filled out and everything else, right? So that phone call, anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours, and you still will get drivers that will come in and go, no, that's not what I was told. I was like, well, here it is in writing. Or, yeah, that's exactly what you told me. I've literally had this happen before where, yeah, it's exactly what you told me. I just thought it would be different when I got here. And you're always going to have that. But at that point, well, we've done everything we possibly could to mitigate that situation happening versus, hey, I'm only going to tell you the answers to the 3 questions you asked, and we'll see you when you get here, right? And they show up with a 90-pound pit bull, and it's like, oh, we're going for a ride. Well, no, not in our truck, right? So, yeah, having those conversations and forcing those conversations. So, yeah, somebody that calls in and just says, hey, yeah, I'm ready to start. When can I come? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's slow down and talk about this to make sure it's a good fit for both of us.
That's so good. And so the last one I have on here that I want to make sure we cover today is teaching drivers to vet fleets. And I know this is something you're super passionate about. And so one of your biggest passions is educating drivers on how to ask better questions. If a driver has had like 30 jobs, where should the accountability really fall? Should it fall on the fleet or should it fall on the driver or somewhere in between?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so actually sitting behind me right now, Joe, we actually have at this point, it's kind of really a passion project. It's called Truck Drivers Best. And that's what it's all centered around is driver education for finding a job that you can go to and stay at a long time. So avoiding what we talked about earlier with the, oh yeah, I don't like your home time. Well, but what do you pay? Right? You're not going to be there a year from now because you don't like the home time. So don't ask that follow-up question if the first one's not right. And so, yeah, to your point, you see these guys or gals that have 30 jobs in the last 8 years. That's not companies' fault, right? And you can look at their application. You see the companies that are on there. You don't have to do this for a long time to know which companies aren't great ones. Even if those are on that list, if you've had 30 jobs, that is not the company's fault at that point. In the age of the internet, between review sites, between all the awards out there for like best fleets, TCA's elite fleets, all these other places where you can look, or even just talking to other drivers, social media, anywhere else, there's no reason you cannot vet a company before you decide to go there. And honestly, the most, success we've had there, or people that have been open to hearing it, are those that have just come out of school and are new to the industry. Because a lot of times they don't have a clue, right? Hey, this is great. I'm gonna get my CDL and I'm gonna go make 90 grand a year, and I'm gonna chase rainbows and ride a unicorn around, and it's gonna be great. And when you tell them, hey, turnover in the industry is in the 80s and 90s, they're like, what? And so just equipping them with, hey, instead of going to 4 places, now a good company's not going to want to look at you because you went 4 places your first year. Let's figure this out before you go to the first one. And yeah, maybe it's still not a fit, but you can take those same tools to the next one. So that way you can find a place that is a good fit in the life circumstances that you have now.
That's awesome. You said it's called Truck Drivers Best?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So what's your, like, as we wrap up here, Caleb, what's your final encouragement to recruiters and fleet leaders?
Yeah. I think it's just what you said, radical honesty, culture, and also part of that culture piece, right, is how just in recruiting departments in the industry as a whole, right, if your turnover is 80, 90%, that's a lot of pressure, right? At that point in time, you're okay just kind of burning and turning through drivers because you have to, or your trucks aren't moving. So how do you turn that around? That way the whole culture is people driven versus that dollar driven and just keeping the wheels turning aspect. And again, just serving. If we can make that, and again, speaking to myself first here, honestly, I'm probably in our department, I might actually be the worst at this than everybody in it, just because of my personality type. And so it's speaking to myself first is finding what needs you can fill and then fill it. And whether that's with your coworkers, at your house, or with other drivers.
That's so good. And so where can people connect with you, Caleb? And where can people connect with Nussbaum?
Sure, definitely Nussbaum. It's nussbaum.com. You can find me on LinkedIn if you want to chat or send me a message. I don't live on there, but I can certainly see the messages, and happy to talk.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Caleb. And just to our audience, the next episode will be a solo episode where I'm touching on some growth mindset stuff. So tune in a couple weeks. Anyway, Caleb, I really, really, really appreciate your time. And I think we could have gone for 3 hours, like you said. Just so many cool things to talk about. And I think we added value to the industry today. So again, just thank you for your time, Caleb.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Our goal with the Hire Truckers podcast is to provide industry insights, marketing trends, and motivation to level up your recruiting game. If we added value, take a few seconds to share this with your network. Have a great week.